Welcome back, YouTube fans. This is my review of Robot Damashii's 100th figure, the Strike Gundam with its Aile Striker pack. Now, the Strike Gundam comes from Gundam Seed, one of my favorite Gundam series. Many people don't like it and criticize it for a lot of reasons, varying from it's a ripoff of the original, the main character is a Mary Sue. But a lot of those criticisms aren't really fair compared to what it was originally. The original Gundam series, that is. That one was made many, many years ago. Late 70s, early 80s is when it was being produced and came out. And the problem most people don't seem to realize is that a lot of the criticisms you level at the main character of that series, Kira, can be leveled at Amuro, the original Gundam pilot. So it's not really a fair comparison in my opinion. The other problem that I don't think most people take into consideration is that this series really did a good job of updating the original Gundam's concept. In most cases, it's pretty much the same. You've got a Earth Federation versus a Space Colony Coalition, referred to as the Plants, and they have a defense force called Zaft. The Federation has more manpower, but their tech isn't as advanced, and the Zaft forces have mobile suits, humanoid robots, that can defeat their forces fairly easily. So they're fighting basically holding actions. They can hold off the enemy, but eventually they're going to lose. So, unlike the original Gundam series, where the Federation were fighting the Zeon in a similar manner and lost most of their population due to utilizing nuclear weapons, poison gas, and colony drops on Earth, and having a treaty, they are simply hacking it out. The lack of nukes is due to a device called the Neutron Jammer. In Gundam Seed, they created this basically to avoid the whole problem of nuclear weapons, but also to give a limitation to the mobile suits. In the original Gundam, they use a Minovsky particle, basically plot convenience particle, that allows them to use a miniature nuclear reactor as their power source. Here, the Neutron Jammer eliminates all nuclear power, meaning that the mobile suits are powered essentially by really big battery packs, meaning they have a limited operation life. This is true of the Strike in particular, because one of the things you will see them frequently worrying about is how much power the Strike has left. I'll get into why later. But the Strike Gundam is in all essentials a update of the classic Gundam concept, especially with its Aile pack, as you can see here. The mobile suit has really good articulation in the knees, as you can see, the feet. There's lots of moving panels and joints here. The Aile pack on the back has moving thrusters and wings, which is a really nice touch because I had the original MSIA figure of this, and the wings were static and could not be moved at all. The backpack is detachable, and you can switch the others in, which are sold separately as a web-exclusive product, which I have yet to acquire. The beam sabers even move in this configuration and can be removed from the pack. Oops. Which is really nice. The beam rifle, as you can see, has a little moving grip, which is quite nice. The shoulders have attachment points for when you add the other packs. It has a little hand grip bar you can put in here, but I prefer this little shield attachment, which fits to the back of the forearm. But it also comes with a bunch of extra bits. For example, the mobile suit's default weapon are actually a pair of combat knives called Armor Schneiders, which is a nice touch and makes a lot of sense. Has your standard 2 beam sabers you can swap in, and of course a whole bunch of hands, as you can see here. Open, closed, fist, etc. Various different ones you can grip things with. But the thing that baffles me with this particular one is the stand. This stand is the oddest design I have ever seen for a stand. It's supposed to be like this, so it goes straight up from here, but the stand is on this weird angle. It comes apart, but I have just never found the stand to be very effective. Personally, I prefer a flat stand that goes straight up so it takes up less space and you can get more stuff on your shelf. But that's neither here nor there. It's what comes with it, and having a stand is a nice addition. Now, for the thing with this mobile suit, the thing that always made me interested was the original Gundam was basically bulletproof. It used a special kind of armor called Gundanium to make it impervious to kinetic weapons. Bullets, missiles, a punch from another mobile suit. The armor could take it, and the standard weapons that the Zakus were armed with were effectively kinetic weapons. A machine gun or a bazooka. They could never hurt it. They could knock it around a bit, and with the main character Amuro's pilot training being non-existent for most of the first half of the series, he could eventually learn to fight better, but the machine was doing all the work. Not so with the Gundam. In this case, the Strike has no special armor that's impervious to bullets on its own. Instead, it has a system called phase shift armor, which makes it impervious, but it uses power. Every time it takes a hit, the armor drains a little power, absorbing a kinetic energy discharge, meaning that he has a limited number of hits before he'll take damage that is critical. If it's a beam weapon, it'll cut right through the armor. Many people have thought that this means phase shift doesn't work on energy weapons, but it actually will block them if it had enough power. The problem is the mobile suits do not produce a sufficient amount of power on their own to block energy weapons, or as they are actually particle beam weapons. They are firing a charged stream of particles at the target. So one of the things that you see early in the series is a lot of times they'll be worrying about how much power he has left, frequently switching out the striker packs on his back to allow him to recharge his battery off the internal ones of the packs, which is a nifty trick. They don't do it as often as I would like, but it is done several times in the series. Another thing that I like about this series is it follows the concept of the original Mobile Suit's story structure, but makes a lot of improvements to it. The main character of Gundam Seed, Kira, is not a wonderkin who is amazingly gifted for reasons that he's gifted, which is what basically being a new type in the original series is. You're gifted just because. In this one, the main character, Kira, is a coordinator, basically someone who's been genetically engineered to be better than the average human. Superior reflexes, a more keen intellect, etc. Basically, the kind of things you see in any genetic engineering story. However, one thing I like seeing is that the main character and a couple of others who are a little more moderate don't say they're better than normal humans. They're just given more potential when they're born. They aren't gifted from birth. They have to work at it like anybody else, which is something I like. You'll see coordinators in the series who seem like everyone else mainly because they are. They're no different from a normal human, except that they had a little bit extra when they're born, which isn't bad. Another thing that I like about this is the mobile suits of the series get developed as the series goes on. The Federation doesn't have mobile suits till the end of the series, nearly, but they initially build 5 mobile suits for this series. The Strike is the 5th, while there are 4 others that are all stolen and used by an enemy team of pilots against him. The thing I like about this is the Federation doesn't actually make them themselves. They contract a neutral nation named Orb to produce them. And the thing is, a lot of the tech gets co-opted from Orb's development team for their own manufacturing purposes to create the Astray series of mobile suits, which I also quite like. Although they do not have the fancy phase shift armor, it's actually a liability on mass production suits. Since the suits have to be made quickly and efficiently, the phase shift is really expensive and requires a lot of maintenance and work, so they take it out of the mass production models. But the regular ones are given the same tech: beam sabers, beam rifles, etc. And those are the things that give them an advantage early on in their introduction. Their suits all have beam weapons, the enemy suits do not, and it cuts through them like butter. One problem, though, is that the Federation suits they build initially are really cut-down versions. I'll go do a review of the Strike Dagger, which will explain that. But overall, the design and development of the suits during the series was an interesting concept. Another thing that was a problem was, although they could make a suit as advanced or more advanced than their enemies, the suit couldn't be operated to the same extent that a coordinator could, because they just had a more advanced mind, or in my opinion, they'd been genetically engineered to have a brain that's capable of multitasking faster than a normal human could. Which I think is the real difference between the coordinators and the naturals, as they are referred to in the series. The coordinators seem to be able to multitask better than normal humans. Studies have been done, and it's shown actually that a normal human being, they cannot multitask well. You may see people who can do 2 things or even 3 things at once, but it's actually been shown that those people are doing those jobs less effectively than if they had done one thing at a time and done just that one thing. So I think that the real difference in the series was that. In fact, a support AI is actually created later in the series by Orb, with Kira's help, in order to allow their mobile suits to move as quickly and efficiently as he can, or at least close enough that they're useful in actual combat. Which I think is the real difference, and one of the things I like. One of the things they do with the Strike frequently is he makes modifications to its operating systems on the fly in order to account for fighting on sand, or the fact that the heat convection in the atmosphere makes the beam weapons drop off more and disperse sooner than they should. He makes modifications during the series to make things work better. It really shows a lot better what they tried to do in the original Gundam series. During the original series, on a couple occasions, you see Amuro tinkering with the original Gundam, but this is a lot better, in my opinion. However, you have to make the allowance that, unfortunately, back then, computer science and technology was not as advanced. So it's another reason I really like this series. Although it follows the original formula of Gundam, they make it its own thing with a few updates and a few changes, and making things more topical, especially with subjects of genetic engineering, whether you should or not. I'm not going to go into that because that's way too complicated a concept for a short video like this. But overall, I really like this figure. I also really like Gundam Seed. So if you guys are interested, I strongly recommend checking out Gundam Seed as a series, and also checking out this figure if you like really good mobile suits for your collection. One thing I will tell you is the sequel series, Gundam Seed Destiny, was a lesser series. It was done by people who I don't really think got how this kind of stuff works, and it was not done well. The writing and the show's direction just were attempts to do what Seed had done with the original series, with the sequel Gundam Zeta, but they didn't understand how these things worked and did it very poorly. The only good thing I can say was the mech design from that series for their mobile suits was really good. So I would recommend checking out the designs they used, but the story itself is a wash. Either way, I'll see you guys next time, and like, subscribe, and comment below, and share this video with your friends. Ciao!